Welcome to
Filtros.
Yay.
Thank you for being here. Today it's a special episode with result. We are very grateful for having you with us, Jani.
Welcome back, Jani.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Jani working for the International Red Crescent and student at the University for Peace who left for so long to help after the Syria earthquake that happens on the 6th of February. How are you?
I'm doing well, I'd say. So I've been back in Costa Rica now for a couple of weeks. As you said, like I was there in Syria. The earthquake happened on 6th of February. And then 1 week after I was there, I stayed for 2 months. But yeah, I'm doing well, but still readjusting after everything I saw there, everything I did there. And it was also like tough work-wise. But yeah.
Yeah, we are very grateful for having you here. When we made Filtros, we made it because we really wanted to be able to share strong stories, testimonies, and we feel it's very important today to voice out what happened, how you feel, your experience.
So. Exactly. It might be different from the last episodes but also we would like to use this platform to raise awareness, and especially what you've done. I think it's like you've done such an inspiration for all of us, and I just want for you to share it to our audience as well. And thank you so much for coming here. Okay, we can start actually with the first question.
Let's start. How did you decide to go from one day to another? Like you took the plane and you kind of disappear from campus.
Yeah, I remember. Like you were just anxious, just waiting for the flight, whether you're gonna fly out or not.
So how did they call you?
So my background is I was working with the IFRC, International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent, before coming to UPs, and I'm part of the international rapid response kind of pool of different kind of experts. So whenever a disaster, whether it's an earthquake, whether it's a cyclone, whether it's anything else, so I'm ready to be deployed for these kind of emergencies with very short time span. So when the earthquake happened in February, 6th of February in Syria, I got an alert 2 days after we saw the initial impacts of the earthquake, after we kind of figured out what kind of support would be needed there. My background is in communications. So I got an alert if I would be available to be deployed as communications coordinator with the Red Cross Red Crescent to Syria. And this came on Wednesday. And my initial thought was that why me? I'm literally on the other side of the world in Costa Rica from Syria. Yeah, this is...
How long was the flight? Sorry.
I'll get that in a minute.
Okay.
But basically, Syria is as far as it can be from Costa Rica. Yeah. So on Wednesday, I got the alert if I'm available. I said, after thinking for a moment, after hearing from the local Syrian colleagues, that they were actually also asking if I would be available to go, because I was working with them before when I was living in Lebanon, also covering Syria before coming to UPs. And then 2 days after, so on on Wednesday, I said that I'm available. And then the next question they asked, how fast can you fly? Yeah. And I said that I'm ready to fly in 12 hours.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I basically informed my family that, okay, this might be coming. I packed my backpack, and 3-4 hours later, when I said yes, I was ready to fly. But then because of the admin issues, because Syria needs a visa if you want to enter the country. So on Friday, I got initial green light saying that, okay, I'm kind of selected, but we're still waiting for the visa. We're still waiting for some admin process. And then on Sunday, so meaning a bit less than a week from the earthquake, I got the initial green light Sunday morning. And 12 hours after that, I was sitting on the plane going to Lebanon, and then from Lebanon, crossing the border by land to Syria. And the flight was, so I flew from here to Paris, it was 12 hours. And then from Paris to Lebanon, it was 5 hours. And then I slept. And then after that, another 5 hours in the car. So total, basically 24 hours.
What's going on in your mind when you're in the plane? How can you prepare yourself? Because it's not the first time you're involved in such crisis, humanitarian crisis.
Yeah.
But I don't know, from my perspective, I don't know if you're really naturally prepared for this? Like in your mental, how do you react?
That's a very good question. I think like different humanitarian workers do it in different ways. For me, I try to absorb information. So I printed, well, not printed, I had my computer. I literally had like 100 pages of stuff that I was thinking I would read on the plane. I read some of it, but then at the same time, I tried to kind of like relax. I was lucky in the sense that I was in Syria previous time just 7 months before the earthquake happened, so I already knew what is the context. I already knew the local colleagues. I knew the like kind of like the local setup, Syrian setup, how it looks like, how it is to work there. Of course, I haven't seen this kind of earthquake ever before, so that was new. But on the plane, yeah, I don't know. I tried to read something and then just take it easy.
Yeah.
Of course, you're anxious because you don't know what's coming up. 1 week after the earthquake, it was still very early phase. Not a lot of international colleagues who were not in the country when the earthquake happened had not gotten back or haven't gotten into the country yet. So like I don't want to say among the first ones, but still one of the very early ones who arrived to the country after the earthquake. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on in your mind, but at the same time, you cannot do too much when you are sitting on the plane.
Yeah.
And then you said you called your family before you flew, right?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, I know this is not your first time, but like, what did your family say when they know about that you're coming to Syria?
Yeah, this is one of the key points if you want to be working in the humanitarian sector, especially on the like emergency response
It's pro tip.
sector. Yeah, exactly. Make sure that your family and your loved ones are fine for you to do that.
Yeah.
So my family, I was living in Lebanon before. This was my 4th time in Syria. So they kind of knew that these kind of things might come up. They know that I'm part of the emergency response roster, the pool. So I might be deployed anywhere in the world, basically, with very, very short notice. But it's important that they know and they support you because you don't want to sit in Syria, work your ass off 24/7, and still at the same time try to manage the expectations, the fears, the stuff that your family might be worried about. So that would be extra burden, and you could not give your 100% to the work. So you need to make sure that your family and your loved ones are actually supporting you doing this kind of work.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just like, for me, like just imagining it, it's just like, I know it's a really hard job to do, especially taking into account that we are also human beings. We have feelings, right? But what I really want to ask you, like, by the time after all of those long haul flights, by the time you got into Syria, what was the first feeling when you really saw the country again after quite some time?
Yeah, because you went there 7 months before, right?
Exactly. So I went to Damascus first, and Damascus is kind of like in the southern or central Syria, and the most affected areas are in the north. So I did not see the earthquake impacts directly when I arrived. But what I saw, what was the biggest difference compared to any other previous time I've been in Syria, is the like mental impact to the people, because Syria has been going through 12 years of war. There have been natural disasters, floods, droughts, wildfires throughout these years. The economy is in a complete meltdown. COVID was very bad there. They have had cholera outbreak, other disease outbreaks. The healthcare is not working. So the mental impact that this earthquake had, that's the biggest difference. Even in Damascus, where people were not directly affected, maybe their friends or family members were injured or got trapped in the rubble. But people in Damascus, there was not many of them. But the mental impact of this earthquake, it kind of like brought back the traumas from the 12 years of conflict, from all the other disasters that they've been going through. And then again, adding another layer of mental traumas for that. So the mental health side was like the biggest difference that I saw compared to the previous times.
And as working, you will explain us what you did exactly, but as working for communications, I can imagine that you were directly in contact with those people. Yeah,
exactly. And that was, I was first sitting in Damascus, so I was not talking directly to the people in the first weeks before I then ended up managing to get to the earthquake affected areas, the worst affected areas. But I was every day going through pictures, videos, hearing these stories, sharing these stories with the international media, with colleagues, with kind of like international audiences. So I was like exposed right away for all these stories. And then especially when I managed to get to the earthquake affected areas, hearing these stories firsthand, I cannot say that it's easy.
Yeah.
But what I want everybody to remember, that I'm still one of the privileged ones. I flew to the country from abroad, knowing that I will be there for a short time and then I will be out of the country. But the people, the Syrian colleagues, the Syrian Red Crescent volunteers, they are the ones who are going to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, they are the people who are affected by the earthquake. So a lot of my colleagues, for example, they lost their houses, they lost their family members for the earthquake, and still they've been working 24/7. So it was kind of the barrier or shield for me there, knowing that I'm the one who has not been impacted by this earthquake. I'm here to support the local colleagues on responding to the earthquake, but they are the ones who are also impacted. So I could put my kind of like mental health side a little bit in the background while I was in the country. But now when I got back, I had to process a lot of things. I still have a lot of videos, and when I watch them, I cannot watch them without crying. So
and thank you a lot for talking today. I can imagine that it might be a bit hard maybe for you, because you came back not that when did you come back?
It's now 2 or 3 weeks ago.
So like you were still processing.
100%, and like that's what I say often, that my mind is still somehow in Syria while I'm physically present here. I'm still processing, but I'm doing my best to take care of my mental health.
Could you explain us the main missions you were doing there, like the main mission?
Yeah. So I was working as a communications coordinator. Always when you're deployed, I can speak on behalf of the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement, but always when you are deployed for an international mission with them, the main task is to support the local actors. So we have always in-country partner in Syria, it's Syrian Arab Red Crescent. So my main task was to support them on achieving their priorities. But it was in the end a lot of international media relations, making sure that the content is available for the international audiences, doing some social media for our IFRC platforms, processing content, but also doing a lot of kind of more strategic communications, thinking about angles that we could pitch to media, to outside Syria.
You still need to pitch the stories.
You still need to support, and that's crazy. So the first 2 weeks after the earthquake, we got we were live every day on international TV channels. There was a lot of interest in the media, but after 2-3 weeks, everything died. Nobody was interested in Syria after that. And then there was the 1 month mark after the earthquake. Then again, there was a little bit of media interest. And then after 1 month mark was gone, nobody was interested in Syria again. And that's the saddest part, is that before the earthquake, Syria had 12 years of war, but it was already back then forgotten crisis. The funding has been going down. Nobody really knew before the earthquake what was the situation in Syria. So and then the earthquake brought it back to the kind of radar or to the map for a moment, but tiny moment. And that was what I personally was surprised at, how short was the moment when people were actually interested what is happening.
Yeah, that's actually really sad, especially knowing that humanity has really advanced in the past years, in the past decades. But we still tend to forget all of these things are happening, even in a time of crisis. I was so surprised that you still had to pitch to media to really, report about what's happening on the ground in Syria. Yeah. It's crazy. Oh my God.
It is, it is. It is just, and it's really sad, and especially when you're working as a communicator, you know that these are the stories that people should know about, and then you try to pitch, tell that we have these stories from the ground, what people have been going through. Wow. We also had some positive angles, but whether it was negative or positive, it was very hard to get through.
Yeah, and that makes the relationship again with the media transactional. You have the story, and then do you want it or not? Then they will have to. But it's it's crazy. But I really want to know, like, because you've been mentioning about like you had a lot of like time waiting for the flight, whether you had green light or not to go,
Yeah.
like, and that was in time of emergency, right? And then you said all the local actors have already been deployed, and then they were already doing something, and then you had to come there to help them.
Yeah.
So you're basically the international response is late, right?
Basically, yes. Yeah. That, like, because the local actors are there before the earthquake or any other disaster happens, and they are there after it happens. Like our Syrian Red Crescent colleagues, they were in the earthquake affected areas in 10 minutes after it happened, and it happened 4 a.m. in the morning. So no international organization can be there in 10 minutes, and that's the moment when you save lives. When earthquake happens, you have like very short time span to react, to get it. It unfortunately becomes very fast a mission just to dig bodies from the rubble. So you have like very short time span to find people alive when someone is stuck under a building. And the first resources, whether it's like, food parcels or food for people or winter clothes, it was very cold winter in Syria this year, those are coming from the local warehouses. There is some international stocks, but the first response comes from the local resources. What is international organizations' role then is to kind of like do the upscale. So for example, for IFRC, we did this big appeal fundraising to do a 2-year plan to do an earthquake response.
Okay.
Which is kind of like the role of the international organizations in a way that we make sure that we can upscale it to a level that it needs and that it's sustainable for at least some
to stabilize the condition.
Yeah. Okay. But then at the same time, like again, in the beginning, fundraising for Syria was easier when the earthquake happened, but then now there are no easy wins anymore. Like
because people forget already.
People forget, and it's not in the news anymore. It's not like it's not close enough for them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like create this like division, but like for example, Ukraine conflict is still fundraising a lot because it's still on the news every day.
Right. Yeah.
Syria has been going 12 years. Nobody's seeing it. It's not like it doesn't come close to people anymore. So nobody wants to give money for that.
No, but what you said is, I think it's really valid. Like we see like this global divide, right, between the global north and global south, where actually global south is often forgotten, especially, in the international media landscape. And that's something we need to work on as well, as humanity tends to forget. Like it's crazy, like after just a month it tends to forget. Yeah. But it's just at the end of the day, like humanitarian response is a work, right? I mean, I don't think there's a perfect work, right? True. So what do you think could have been done different to improve the situation?
Well, what should have been done in Syria to improve the situation is that things that you can do before the earthquake, like, and or like, with the conflict, it has been 12 years for now for the conflict. We have had 12 years basically to solve the conflict. We have failed in that. Now the earthquake came. We could have been better prepared for earthquake or other natural disasters. So that's the important work in Syria. Because of the conflict, like the preparedness for this kind of disasters was really low because there was no resources. Like every resource was to respond to the conflict, to the humanitarian crisis that was there before the earthquake, and then the earthquake came on top of that. So there was like the preparedness level was as good as it could, but you can imagine that there was a lot of other priorities also.
And how, when you're on the ground witnessing the crisis, like hearing such hard stories, how do you do to take some distance or to not be too much? I mean, you are human, right? Yeah. You must be affected by the situation. How, like, did you have mental support? Did you have time also for yourself with the colleagues? How you managed the situation to try to take the distance at the same time and not be too much affected, even if, of course, you're overwhelmed by the situation?
Yeah, that's important question, because like, when you're deployed for something like this, you're expected to give your 100% in that moment. So like I was working long days, especially on the first weeks when I got to the country. And yeah, you need to take care of yourself, because if you cannot take care of yourself, how can you support anybody else?
Exactly.
And that's the key. That I'm happy that humanitarian sector has been improving on this a lot in the past years. So there is support available. For me, because it was like short mission, 2 months. So I was giving my 100%, knowing that I will be out of the country at some point. That helped. Also, of course, the peer support from other colleagues. That was very helpful. We went for beers, we sat down, we discussed, tried to do even sometimes some fun stuff, even though it's not always easy in Syria. Damascus, the capital, is still beautiful city. They have beautiful old town that has not been impacted by the earthquake or the conflict. So like, going for walks in there. So you need to find ways to manage with the situation. That's 100%. Yeah, you are expected to give your 100%, your full potential there. So you need to take care of that. Since you're
back, did you still have the support?
Yes. So
support.
Yeah. So the organization, so Finnish Red Cross basically deployed me, and then I was working with the International Red Cross.
Yeah.
And they provide this mental health, like after deployment mental health services. So they are available for me. Also, like coming back here to Costa Rica, it's so different context. So it was also helpful for me that like, I'm kind of like disconnected a little bit from Syria, even though my mind was still there. And then all the people around you, like I'm grateful for all the friends, including you two, who've been asking how I'm doing. And like,
because
that's
it might
important.
Be hard from one day to another. You're a student at the University for Peace. Boom, in a plane, let's go on the ground, like let's come back. Here, like there are so many events, parties, social events, people asking you so many questions. How, like, your mental is still there. How are you doing to reconnect, here? And to process.
Yeah, it's still work in progress. But yeah, like I've been keeping also myself quite busy after I got back, kind of like distracting me, because I feel that I need to process the mental impacts, but then at the same time, I prefer to do it slowly rather than like, taking a week off and just like, thinking and sitting down. And yeah, I don't think that way would work for me. I prefer that I keep myself busy, I keep processing at the same time. And then yeah, like at some point, I think I'm already in a good position, still readjusting, but yeah, nice. I think I'm doing well now.
Which advice would you give to someone who would like to go for even maybe not working for the International Red Cross, but going as a volunteer or on the ground? Do you have something to tell to this person?
Yeah, my first advice is okay, this is obvious, but like do your research, figure out what you want to do, and then see what that kind of work or what that kind of volunteer would actually like mean. Maybe talk to people who have done similar things. And then second is like engage with an organization who you think that you would want to do this kind of thing. Like whether it's volunteering, whether it's being deployed abroad, whether it's like working as a humanitarian worker as a long term. Like I was in Lebanon for 2 years, so it was not like emergency response, it was long-term position. So engage with the organizations like this that you would like to do something, do their training. So a lot of organizations, if you want to be a volunteer, or even like in your own country you want to be a volunteer, you need to do trainings with them first. So engage with the organization. I really recommend everybody to volunteer with their own Red Cross or Red Crescent. That's the beauty of the Red Cross Red Crescent movement, that basically everywhere in the world we're present. And here, for example, in Costa Rica, we're in this small town, Ciudad Colón, and we have our local Red Cross here in Ciudad Colón. There's another branch in San Jose. There is like all around the country. In Syria, there's Syria Red Crescent, which basically is the same as Red Cross, but in Arab world, we call them Red Crescents. So they're it was national organization, but also every town had their own Red Crescent volunteers. And that's why in situations like this, the volunteers are there already in the community and they are the ones who are responding. Let's say we would have big flood now today in Ciudad Colon. Okay, luckily it's not raining, but
Luckily. Luckily.
so there would be big flood in Ciudad
Yeah.
Colon, and some people would need help. So the local Ciudad Colon Red Cross volunteers would be the ones who would respond because they know the community, they are close, they are trained. So that's the beauty of the Red Cross Red Crescent network. But try to engage with the organization that you wanna either volunteer or do work, do missions. Yeah.
But Jani, what do you think? What does it take? Like, what do we need to have in ourselves, to be the, if we are interested to become a humanitarian worker?
I think the key is the passion and the like will to help others. I think that's the bottom line. And then after that, it depends. It can be basically like, often they expect some technical skills. So like you come, like for example, me, I had my background in journalism and then I was doing communication. So that's my kind of like technical incoming expertise. But then also you can build this expertise when you say you want to volunteer with this organization, you do trainings with them, and then you build your kind of like added value with them. But yeah, I think that's the passion for, or you wanting to help others make the world a better place. I think that sounds very cliche, but I think that's the truth. And then everything after that you can figure out.
Yeah, but it's still really valid because I think a lot of people, if we want to help others, we can also be working in the development sectors. But still, humanitarian emergency response is different kind, right? So maybe like another questions of mine is like, when you were deployed anywhere, like in the crisis situations, of course maybe you feel scared as well, right? So what were you thinking, or like what would you do when you felt you were scared on the ground? What's something you hold on to there?
I'm trying, like, I don't think that I was scared because also like I was lucky that I was deployed with like big international organizations, so there is big kind of system behind you. So we had like someone taking care of our security, something like I had very good insurances. So like if something would have happened to me, I would have been like evacuated from the country, for example. So I don't recall a moment that I was like scared. Sometimes you're a bit anxious, like for me also, because I don't speak Arabic well. So like sometimes you end up these like uncomfortable situations.
And you don't know how.
You don't have what they want to get out of you. But I don't think you should go somewhere where you think that you would be very scared. That's also because that will affect again your performance on the ground. So you should do the thinking first before going somewhere. Of course you can be affected, but when you're scared, you're not always thinking straight. So you need to get over the fear and function in a way that you don't give the power to the fear. Like if you make a decision, if you're scared of something, you probably will not make the best possible decision.
Especially in the emergency.
Yeah, exactly. And then that might put you in danger. Sometimes even like you're threatening your life.
So maybe this would be my last question. Like, what was the best memory, like, or not the best, I don't know, like the everlasting memory that you have, that you take away from Syria to home, like to anywhere you're gonna live?
Because it might be like an instinct, when you're such in a emergency, having such huge and hard moments, you might try, to find some light in this dark, in this chaos.
Yeah, definitely. Like one of the most impactful and important moments for me personally in Syria was that I went to quite a few activities for children. So our local colleagues, they're doing this like mental health, psychosocial support
Yeah.
sessions for children, whether they were in the temporary shelters, which could be in schools, in sports stadiums, or or in it could be anywhere where children basically spend their time. So our colleagues, local colleagues, did this like sessions for them, basically giving a space for children to be children.
Yeah.
Because these kids, the conflict started in 2011. Every single children who was born after 2011 has been living their whole life through just in a conflict. So that's the only reality that they know. So in a conflict setup, often children are one of the most vulnerable ones. In Syria, children have to take heavy responsibilities from very young age. So our colleagues, they were providing the children like kind of space to be children, while at the same time teaching them skills to kind of like manage their feelings, tools to manage their feelings. And I was talking to the kids, and literally every kid said that these sessions were like the highlight of their day. And you could see them like, smiling there in the middle of crisis, like 1 week after the earthquake, 12 years after the war started. Like those were the most memorable, important moments that I really remember. And that's I want to also remember that even though there is a lot of suffering, people are still vulnerable. They need to continue their lives. They need to move on. They need to live their lives. So sometimes there's even happy moments.
Even my heart is beating. Thank you so much for talking like this. Genuinely, it might be hard to talk right now because, as we said, you are still processing. So, but I'm very grateful we can share your story, like your experiences, voice out this issue, and also maybe give advice to people who would like to become humanitarian worker. Thank you a lot.
Thank you for having me.
So much,
Thank
Jani.
you.
Really appreciate you coming here.
Yes.
I try to be without filters.
Usually we ask our guests to swear with any filters.
I can swear now. I was talking. I swear I was talking without.
No, we
filters.
trust you. I will trust you that you will speak the truth.
That was really on the ground. Not a liar.
Yeah.
Would you like? Okay. This episode, you understood, is very special. We were thinking, we have this concept, the Chili Guaro time, where the guest...
Favorite.
Yeah.
favorite.
Oh, you've been watching it. Thanks, Jani.
You're watching, right?
No, I meant the shot.
Okay.
Yeah, Chili Guaro is like a whole... No, he watched all the episodes. Like you guys, you watch the episodes. It's your time if you want to reverse the situation and to ask us one question. And
Not send us to the ground, of course, to the situation.
That's true.
Just if you have any questions for us that you can ask right now.
Yeah, and we have usually 1 minute to answer.
Okay.
You can think.
Yes.
Take your time.
Oh.
I'm not in a hurry. I was gonna ask that. Would you want to engage with this kind of work as a humanitarian worker? And if you would get an alert today to fly somewhere to respond to an emergency, how soon you think you could fly?
Good question.
This is, I think, the best question we had so far.
Yeah, it's a quality question.
Should we really time 1 minute, or should we just keep the 1 minute?
Yeah, we can just keep the time.
Yeah, let's do it because...
You go first.
You can start.
Oh, really?
I always go first.
Okay.
Go first.
Well, I'm really interested. Like, also, I've been working in the development sector, right? Like, I think what kept me going, because I know at the end of the day, it's work. Yes, I'm earning money from what I do, but also I want to see the impact through the work that I've done. If I see like an impact, even if it's just like to just one life of someone, and if I make them smile because of what I do, I think it's just really something beautiful for me. So I would totally do it. I would love to do it, but of course I know that as a human being, I have a relationship with different people, like with my family, with my partner, with my friends. So I mean, that would be my first time doing it. So of course I will first consult with the closest like friends and family and my partner, like what would they think about this? But at the end of the day, I'm still taking the decision.
Yeah.
So, and then if you ask me like how soon I can fly, I think
How fast packer you are.
no, I'm not good at packing.
No, you're
That's
not.
first.
He's not. I can say.
No, but like I think going to emergency situations, like I could do the packing really fast, but for me it's just like more to consult with the people I love, the people I have around, and maybe I could. Yeah, I would need a day probably, not 12 hours like you, but maybe it would take me a day to really decide and fly if I really want to do this.
Yeah. My turn.
What about you?
I feel like, okay, from my journalist background,
we're in communications, all of three of us. Nice.
I could go and help to voice out the stories of the people and help. And also I could see myself working with those children to just seeing them just smiling 1 minute in the day, you know. But to be honest, I don't know if I can really say yes or not. I feel like when you're in front of the situation, when you get the call, you can really realize like what's going on, and then but I don't feel like you can really measure the consequences and the impacts on yourself. I have never done any humanitarian missions. It's something that I think I could do because I love helping, being on the ground. I manage kind of well like the emergency. I mean I can't say I manage because I haven't lived this situation, but I mean when you have to pack fast, to take the decision, to go on the ground, it's something that's kind of, I could see myself doing it. But again, I think as you mentioned, it's important to be well surrounded, to have advice of your family. I don't know how I would feel going there if I know my family is stressed, scared for me.
Yeah, right.
It might be additional emotions,
Burden.
burdens. So your question is hard to answer. I would say yes, but again, until you are not confronted to the situation. Maybe I'm saying yes right now, but I would say no, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you for this question.
Yeah. But also we can ask the audience actually, if what would you do if you get a notifications that, hey, are you interested to help in an emergency situations? What would you do, and how soon you can actually be available or fly to that country or to that area?
Yeah. Don't hesitate to comment.
Yeah, and also, what do you think about this episode? Because this episode is totally different with the episode that we've done, and I hope this is useful also for all of you to know, you know, what happened and what has happened in Syria as well. Even it's still happening until today, right?
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you a lot. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll do something fun next time. But it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much, Jani.
Lighter topic next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Do you want to say one more thing before we end the episode? Maybe to your colleagues or
yeah, I think that's what I don't know if I said it before, but like I don't want to take the hero escape. The local colleagues, the local volunteers, they are the ones who are there before disaster happens, after disaster happens. They are the real heroes on the ground. I'm just there to support and help them in the best possible way.
You know, you don't want the hero, but you were there, and I think it's the most important.
Yeah, and you are, you know, you are the platform for their voice to be heard to the rest of us, you know, and we thank you for that.
Yeah,
thank you a lot.
Thank you so
See
much.
you for our next episodes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.